to another episode of Best Android Games, this time for May 2016. Now, I don't think I've ever been this excited to show you guys a set of Android games, but let's just say these ones weren't good for my spare time. Let's get straight into it. So number 1, Mobfish, literally one of the most addictive games I've ever played. So the idea is very simple. You throw a mine down in a lake, you go as far down as you possibly can, and as soon as you hit your first fish, it'll send you straight back up. You've then got to destroy as many on the way up and collect points. You can combo, you can get multipliers, and there's a ton of depth. There's lots of different bombs you can get, and they all act in different ways. What's unusual is the serious amount of depth in the game. It took me about 3 hours just to unlock the second area, and there's a total of 12. Now, it is a free-to-play game, and occasionally you will be incentivized to watch videos, but it's never actually forced upon you, and to be honest I much prefer that to having to purchase stuff. Number 2, and no less strange than the first game, we have Launchosaurus. Now, hearing that name, you're probably not really going to have a clue what the game is on about, and to be honest it took me about 10 minutes to work it out myself. So yeah, this is going to sound a little bit strange, but essentially you put together a dinosaur. And this is no dinosaur that you've ever really seen before. You could, for example, have a human skull attached to a brachiosaurus spine, and then a mammoth tail. It's all a little bit strange. But essentially, you then, after compiling this dinosaur, launch it and try and land it in the white circle and avoid the red circles. The game gets more and more complex, and there's a ton of different parts to unlock. You can use the coins that you've won from actually playing the game to dig up new fossils, which earn new parts, which give you new abilities. So it's a pretty bog standard formula, but it works, and it's an unusual format, so definitely worth a try. For people who want more of a challenge, we got you covered. This is Flail Rider, and this is one of the hardest games I've probably ever played on my mobile phone. And not because it has some dangerous mechanics or incredibly difficult to avoid obstacles. The controls are just messed up. But actually that makes it a very entertaining experience, one that's rewarding to master, but also difficult at the same time and gives you something to strive towards. There's a lot of vehicles to unlock, and essentially the goal is to destroy as much as possible and create a high score multiplier. It's simpler than the first 2 games, but absolutely every bit as fun. Number 4. I'm not going to try and say the name, but essentially this is a really interesting puzzle game. The idea is basically for you to create pictures. You start with a set of disorganized parts, and each one has a specific path it can follow. So you have to kind of use your foresight and a little bit of trial and error to try and see the bigger picture right from the beginning, and move accordingly. It's very, very rewarding, but there is no sort of progression mechanism. You simply just one puzzle after the next. And the last game, the game that I'm crowning number 1 on this episode, is going to be Flick Golf Extreme. Now, I've played Flick Golf on quite a lot of different devices. It's been around for a really long time, but this is the first time Flick Golf Extreme has reached Android. For those of you who don't know, it's basically a golf game, but not how you'd expect. All you actually do is try and get the ball in the hole. There's no sort of intermediate shots, but it's made very interesting, with things like wind direction to consider, and more importantly, the ability to actually spin the ball forward, backwards, to the left, to the right, to try and tailor your shot after you've hit it. It makes for actually quite a skillful game, but also one that's incredibly rewarding and accessible to play. With 2 game modes and 7 maps, it's hardly the most expansive title, but it's a very nice pick up and play game. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, be sure to slap that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. I'm Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'm signing out.